Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast podcast. As always, with Wayne, I'm Patrick, coming to you with week 9 of the NFL schedule here. If you're with us on YouTube, stop, give us a like, a subscribe, leave a comment once you're done watching this, but we really appreciate the support. You can also find us on Instagram at Ball and Breakfast, on podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, either on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Again, wherever you can find us, like us, follow us further. We appreciate it. I guess we'll just kick it off right away. We're going to go right into the Sunday games in the morning. Miami, taking on the Chiefs.
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun game, and I definitely kind of want a little bit back and forth in here, but I have to pick. I have to go with the Chiefs here. I think Patrick Mahomes, coming off a loss and everything, he tends to do pretty well, and I also think that with the pass rush, I think Tua is able to get the ball up pretty quickly, but I think the Chiefs, their whole defensive scheming, I think, will slow them down some. The key thing it will be, can they stop the run? Can the Chiefs defense stop the run against the obviously first ranked Dolphins running attack there? Chiefs, I think, are like ranked 26, so something to keep an eye out on there. But they're too good of a team to kind of let a losing streak slide. Patrick Mahomes was, I believe, 6-2 last week. Wasn't able to pull off a Jordan. Wasn't the playoffs or anything like that. But yeah, I think there's a lot to like, just from the Chiefs just being able to play up to the competition, whereas the Dolphins, I think we mentioned before, they always seem to play down when it comes to higher level competition, such as Chiefs, such as Eagles, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, going to be a bounce back win here for the Chiefs. And then yeah, I think it's like a 3. I think it is. So or maybe it might be 2.5, depending on where you're looking at. So I might just pick the over just because it is like such a small margin there. And yeah, the Chiefs, I think they'll prevail. And I think this would be like their first victory without Taylor Swift, being in the presence of Travis Kelce and letting her vibes go there. So
I gotcha. I'm actually going to go the other way. And I think that because Miami is at this point right now where I think they really need a win against a really established team. I mean, they've shown that they can beat up on the bottom feeders, the middle class, but they haven't hit out, a heavyweight just yet. And they've taken their lumps against the Bills and Eagles. I'm glad you brought up the stat about the Chiefs' run defense, because I think, in those games against the Bills and Eagles, they were just able to stuff the running game at the line. And that really just like contained the offense and put a lot of pressure on Tua, which I think, ideally he'd like to be able to establish the run first and then be able to kind of play off that to, attack in the passing game. But I just think also, the Chiefs aren't, unbeatable in the regular season. They've shown over the years, even in years where they've been Super Bowl contenders or winners, that they can lose games here and there and still, be resilient, bounce back. I like the fact that this is on neutral ground, going to Frankfurt and in Germany and playing, there. It kind of just balances everything out in terms of, any sort of extra advantage you give to, KC on that level. But yeah, taking nothing away from KC, even if Miami was to lose, the only knock you'd probably give it if Miami does go down against, it's like, hey, when they get to the playoffs, they start playing real competition. Are they just going to continue to fold like this? So I think Miami definitely needs this game more than KC does. And I think they're just going to be a tad bit hungrier to get that W.
I would love to see Jalen Ramsey take on Travis Kelce here. Like, honestly, what wide receiver would you want Jalen Ramsey? I feel like that's just too easy given the wide receiver struggles of the Chiefs, right? So, if Jalen Ramsey just like kind of spies on or just plays man to man like on Travis Kelce, then this game honestly could be a blowout. And I would definitely be with you there. So something to keep an eye out on there. But I'm still gonna go with my Chiefs here with the W. But no, this definitely was a good I think matchup, and I'm definitely going to be watching this game for sure.
Same here. In our next one, we've got the Commanders going on the road to take on the Patriots.
Yeah, Commanders versus Patriots. Commanders, they've they haven't been good of late, and they just traded away, two of their star defensive linemen in Chase Young and then Montez Sweat as well to the Bears. So, a lot of different, I guess, modifications happening there. And then, Patriots, yeah, I don't know. They definitely have not played up to any type of potential that they've had. With Mac Jones, kind of just like their offense has been complete anemic here. But it's going to be, yeah. They're going against the Commanders, who even with those, with that defensive line that they had, they were one of the worst defenses out there. So I think Mac Jones and the rest of their offense will be able to play a little bit more ball control type of offense there, and then get to Sam Howell, who's just been getting sacked left and right, and I think he's still on pace to break the all-time record for most stacked quarterback in the season here. So for me, I got to go with the Patriots here. Getting a dub.
Same here. I take the Patriots. I take the over on the -3 that they have. I think that, like you're saying, Washington losing two of their biggest pieces on defense, whether it's production wise or just, confidence wise, leadership wise, I think those are two of the guys that other players would look up to in terms of, this is the standard that they set here. On our defense, we want to be, as productive as a guy like Montez Sweat, Chase Young. Now those guys are gone. And this is the first week after that. I just feel like that's a huge blow to the defense itself. Like you're saying, with the offense can be inconsistent. I think Sam Howell at times can show flashes. He can put up the counting stats. He's very, dynamic in that sense, but it doesn't always translate to the W's. I mean, the same could be said for the Patriots. They're 2-6. They've struggled mightily in past weeks, losing in blowout fashion here and there. But then they kind of come back and they'll shock you. They'll either, win an upset or, play like a really close game. I think, Mac Jones is just as inconsistent as Sam Howell. He's had a couple more years under his belt to kind of prove he can hang here in the NFL. That's still, a question that kind of needs to be answered at this point. But I just think the Patriots will have a little bit more momentum going into this game, probably a little bit more confidence, and arguably a little bit more team too.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Commanders. I think you brought up that good point. Just the confidence level of their coaching, of where their direction. I mean, I don't think Ron Rivera he lasts after the season. They might just wait until after the season to just kind of let him go there. And I think it's pretty evident that they are going to be rebuilding. New ownership. Magic Johnson's been like tweeting and like, yeah, this isn't it basically. So, they just traded away their two-star defensive lineman there. So, and the Patriots, they're still gonna, Bill Belichick coach team, they're still gonna come prepared and everything. And I'm sure that they're kind of game planning to be, don't give up the ball, and we can definitely, move the ball against this defense who has struggled in the past. And then, now they're losing two big stars there. So I feel like they'll be able to move the ball, get a dub. Probably run the ball a little bit there with Stevenson and for all those fantasy football managers out there. So something to look out for there.
Yeah, it kind of reeks of a tank job too. Just to think that they weren't really having that bad of a start. They kind of started off above 500, are dancing right around that line, and it's like they had an option of maybe tagging Sweat. Probably could have extended Chase Young. They were talking to him about that, but like you're saying, ownership is going in a different direction. This might be the start of a lot of losses just piling up for the Commanders, which, we'll just have to see. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's, the overall goal here.
Yeah, and I do wonder, it's like, do they believe that Sam Howell is the person here? Or are they going to maybe look at the draft and see if they can, get somebody there? Or, hey, maybe there's still some people left in the DC area that's like, who like our last great quote unquote quarterback was? Kirk Cousins or something, so maybe there's a little bit of momentum there going forth there. So something to just think about as a if you're a Commanders fan out there.
Yeah. And Caleb Williams went to Gonzaga High School in DC. So that's completely on their radar. Like, that's not surprising that this would be the spot, where, they'd love to take a guy like that. And Washington's also notorious for targeting African American quarterbacks to appease its fan base and just the greater DC area. So this is all stuff that's kind of in play. It'll take a long, ugly road to get there, but not out of the realm of possibilities for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Something, yeah. Got a lot of people, fan bases looking at the draft mid-season here. So
yeah, but they'll have to give Williams equity, so they're gonna have try with some of that. Maybe Magic will throw in a percentage or two.
Yeah, you just sell like a movie theater or two, So
no doubt. In our next one, we've got the Giants going on the road to take on the Raiders.
Yeah, talk about like two fucked up teams. Honestly, it's like, you got the Giants there, who they're giving the big contract to Daniel Jones. He hasn't really played up to it, and then Tyrod Taylor comes in. He's like, is he better? Is he just a better quarterback there? But yeah, I mean, their defense has played a lot better, I think, in the past couple of weeks. So that's something there. And then obviously now the Raiders moving on from Josh McDaniels, and then also their GM too. So like cleaning house completely there. That being all said, it's like, which one's the least, or which one's like not completely fucked up more. And player wise, like, I don't know, the Raiders still have some really good players there. They just haven't performed well. And yeah, without McDaniels, maybe this is like a plus minus situation, at least for this particular game. So I'm going to go with the Raiders here. I think they'll be able to pull off the dub, again, despite losing, their coach and their GM here. Andrew Thomas and then Neal as well. I think they're questionable. The Giants also traded Leonard Williams, so their best, I think probably their best defensive player. So I mean, those are some big losses or potential losses there. So for me, it's like, as long as somebody's going to be able to throw to Devontae Adams a little bit, and then maybe Max Crosby is able to get to the quarterback here and there, like, I'm going to go with the Raiders here, pulling off W, even without, that coach there.
Man, this one was tough for me, man. It is because, I kind of think back to Jeff Saturday taking over the Colts last year, and I think he got a win in his debut, and it was like completely, shocking the world in a lot of ways. I think it was against the Raiders, but to have Antonio Pierce come in, he's a former Giant himself. More of a player's coach. It definitely changes the culture and the vibe of that locker room. Somebody who maybe can see, better eye to eye with these players. Because I've always thought that Josh McDaniels was awful at that. I think he's always kind of come with his own, cockiness in a way, his own arrogance. I think, obviously winning a lot of those titles under Belichick and with Brady probably got, a bit too much to his head when he was with Denver and then obviously here in Las Vegas. But still, I guess considering all that, I think Brian Daboll is just a really good coach who's facing some really unfortunate outcomes here. Like, it just doesn't happen too often where a guy's like basically coach of the year and then his team just completely, wets the bed the entire season. I don't think the Giants are all that good. I didn't think they were totally amazing on paper. I mean, I think if I went back and rolled the video, I still think I had them, winning the last wildcard spot in the NFC. I put a lot of that on Daboll's shoulders. Like, I put a lot of that confidence in him being just a great coach and getting the most out of his guys. Seriously, if they can't win this game, it already is over for them this season. But like, I don't know, man. Like, it's going to be really hard to come back from a really, terrible season like this and keep him rolling in there as head coach, knowing that you've got, Daniel Jones under contract for the next 3 or more seasons. Like, you probably have to cut bait with a guy like that, try to figure out if there is actually a market there. Probably a lot of dead money would have to be eaten by New York, but man, come on, like, get it together. This is a very winnable game for New York, and I'm gonna give them the win here by a very thin margin.
Yeah, I mean, it very much so can be. It is going to be, I think, at Vegas, right? And those games tend to be overridden by whoever the road team is, just because. And hey, New York and that fan base, they can definitely pack that stadium there. I like what you mentioned there about the coaching. Like wasn't too long ago, right, that the Raiders made the playoffs with Rich Bisaccia there, who the special teams guy, and it's like, yeah, whatever happened. Like, I think he's with the Green Bay Packers now, but it was like, yeah, was he so bad? To the point it's like, all right, let's. I think they signed McDaniels, right? So it was like a 3 or 6 year contract or something. Now they're gonna have to. They're on the books for at least like 5 of them. So it's like, man, was this all worth it? And I don't know. It's like, you know you have that shiny toy, McDaniels, who didn't have a great track record to begin with when in his record with the Denver Broncos, in your division. So it's like, what were they thinking there? Anyway, yeah, it's just a lot of unfortunate things that are happening. But I'm gonna go, yeah, with the Raiders. Who just I feel like less is more when it comes to Raiders. The lesser the expectations, the better they are. So yeah, at least I think they'll get the W here. But that's a good call. Dable, Martindale, like Wink over there for the defensive coordinator. I think they've done as good of a job as they can with the pieces that they have. It's just they don't have too many pieces at least right now. So
Yeah. Good point on Bisaccia, too, because it's like he wrote handwritten letters to all of his players after the season that he took over as interim coach and did an amazing job there. And it's so reminiscent of, obviously we live in Chicago with the White Sox letting Rick Renteria go after, taking a very young team to the playoffs. All to get that, very shiny toy, the grass is greener approach, taking a very, familiar name with, long history of success, this and that. But the grass isn't always greener. Guys don't always react the same way to having a player's coach, and then obviously like putting in more of an X's and O's type of guy. I just think if your team's on the rise, they've bought in to a certain guy. Like listen to that. That's important. Like it's not always about the next great thing. Like sometimes a good thing just doesn't have to be disturbed. And I just think it's like that cautionary tale that every franchise like needs to listen to more often.
yeah, and I think there's something with it also. Like I don't like. It'd be nice if we saw more special teams people get head coaching jobs. I guess to be a little bit different, but oftentimes it's these days, right? The hot young offensive coordinator who studied under Kyle Shanahan or something like that, right? But John Harbaugh, like he is a special teams coach, and he's had like one of the most successful head coaching stints, of recent memory. But yeah, also like all time with the Ravens now. So I don't know. Yeah, there's something towards a special teams person because they're able to have to communicate and coordinate right with both offensive players and defensive players, albeit second, third stringers here and there. But yeah, it just goes to show like the importance of having like somebody like that to be able to pull different personalities, different skill sets together, right? So yeah, just all unfortunate. Like he didn't get that chance though, Pistachio.
For sure. In our next one, we've got Seattle going on the road to take on the Baltimore Ravens. Wayne, who do you got?
Yeah, this is gonna be game of the week for me. I honestly think these two teams, with the personnel that they have, with the way that they're playing, like these two teams could be in the Super Bowl. Honestly, like I really like what the Seahawks are doing. They were the ones that got Leonard Williams, so I feel like they've had a pretty decent run defense. But adding Leonard Williams, like you become like a decent run defense to like, all right, we're gonna stop some players out there. So I really like the Seahawks are doing there, and then yeah, you got the Ravens, who a lot of people like in the ranking systems that people are pulling out there, like they're number one, number two right now. So um, it's in Baltimore. I think that's the edge. I think the Ravens though they're like a 6 point favorite, and I think everybody and their mom is like that's way too much. I feel like uh, also like Lamar, he doesn't he tends to not do well when it's like that big of a margin, similar I think to like Patrick Mahomes there. So for me, yeah, I'm gonna pick the Ravens, but I think it'll be closer, maybe by a field goal here. Again, it's in Baltimore, so I'm gonna give the edge there to the Ravens.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go the same way. I'll go with the Ravens. I think Geno Smith has stumbled a bit here in year two of him being, the starter of the Seahawks. I feel like he's not playing to that same standard he set last year, and it's definitely affected them at least on the offensive side of the ball. You go against the second best defense on paper right now, in their home town. Like that's a pretty tall ask for a guy who maybe hasn't strung it all together like we saw last year. Like you're saying, Lamar is pretty much up for an MVP at this point. They've really incorporated a lot of their new pieces into the offense. Definitely in the passing game. So yeah, I just see them taking care of business. I still think this will be a competitive game, but I see them prevailing and getting a big win here.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those things. Like maybe it's like a couple weeks in with Leonard Williams that they could make more stops, get more of a pass rush and coordinate all that. But yeah, kind of coming in like I don't know how much he's going to be playing at least immediately. So, but yeah, like you were saying, Ravens they're humming. They're playing as good as football as possible. I mean that's just the thing though is that if they can stay healthy, right? If they can maintain this, if their players can just be healthy both on the offensive side and the defensive side, like there's nobody that's going to stop them. So, hopefully they maintain their health and stretch a little bit. So, but yeah, this is going to be a good game though. I'm definitely going to see if I am able to watch this game just because there's going to be so much I think going on here with all the talent on the field. And yeah, the Seahawks they've JSN's getting more into the mix now. So yeah, this team definitely is something to watch there. But like you were saying, Gino has been kind of up and down a little bit more in this season. So just, I think for that consistency issues, like, yeah, it's going to be tough to gain some traction against a tough defense that the Ravens have right now.
For sure. In our next one, we've got the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns.
Yeah, man. So like Cardinals, right? They got rid of Dobbs. I think they're pretty much set on like tanking. Like, hey, Colin Murray, I think you seem healthy, but we're just not going to play you. So they got Clayton Tune, the rookie. I think he was like kind of like too late or something. But yeah, like he's going to be starting, and it's like that Browns defensive line, like they're like okay, let's have a meal here. Let's have a buffet. Yeah, I don't know. This is going to be a tough, I think, bloodbath against the Cardinals there for this poor rookie. And really, like, it doesn't really matter if I'm the offensive coordinator for the Browns. I'm like, let's just run the ball. Like, if PJ Walker, like, just don't throw an interception. He's had like one of the worst passer ratings, I think, these past couple weeks, and just has been pretty bad, I think. So. Deshaun Watson, I think he's kind of up in the air in terms of playing. Like he has been, I think, the past couple weeks. So just gonna think that they're gonna go with PJ Walker here. But yeah, I think they just need to be able to run the ball, make a couple passes here and there, and then just sack Clayton Tune until he's a basically rubble there. But yeah, I got the Browns taking this dub 7.5. Like I don't know, but I touched it. Maybe I'll take the over there.
Yeah, I don't have much to add here. I feel like I'm kind of with you. You're looking at the best defense in the league taking on a team that's completely assembling it to kind of continue to fall here. So maybe Clayton Tune is a little spark for the offense. Maybe it becomes more of a competitive game. It falls under the 8-point spread, but they're not winning this football game.
Yeah, Clinton, he's not Will Levis. He's not Will Levis. So yeah, like Will Levis was like first round talent. Didn't it was a little bit inconsistent there, but he's not going to pull off a Will Levis here. So
gotcha. In our next one, we've got the Bucks traveling to Houston to take on the Texans.
Yeah, this will be an interesting one here. I think the Texans are a 2.5-point favorite here. There's more tape now, I think, of CJ Stroud in that offense. Bucks, they started hot, 3-1, and then they lost their last three in a row here. But albeit those were against some, playoff teams or playoff bound teams, I should say, with, the Lions, Falcons, I think we're those couple teams there. So I don't know. For me, I'm actually going to take the Bucks on the road here. I feel like, yeah, like when their backs against the wall and when things aren't going their way, I feel like, and there's no expectations whatsoever. I feel like that's like Baker Mayfield's whole thing. So right now it's like, okay, underdog. Hey, maybe I'll go for it. Maybe, I think that's just where the Bucks play better overall football. And the Texans are vulnerable. Like they're not the most experienced team. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bucks on the road here, getting a dub over the Texans.
Yeah. I think these teams match up really well. We obviously saw the Texans lose to the Panthers last week. So in a game that we thought was an absolute gimme, they stumbled. And again, like they had a bye week, they came off that, and they still, couldn't establish run the way that they want to. And at this point, I'm a Damian Pierce owner. I'm losing a lot of faith. Like I think there's just something, you know, wrong with his game, or just the way that the plays have been called at the time, where he's toting the ball. It's like just things aren't working the way that they were when he was healthy last year. So without a running game, that really puts a lot of pressure on CJ Stroud. He's obviously lived up to everything he possibly could as a top pick in the draft as of last year. I think in this game, it's super important that they get Tank Dell more, involved in the offense. I feel like he just came back and was kind of a non-factor against Carolina. So I think they get him going a little bit more early on just to open up the offense for Nico Collins too. Sticking obviously with the pass there. Tampa's got a really good ability to, collapse that pocket. So Stroud's going to have to play, pretty quick in this one. On the other side of the ball, Tampa started off pretty hot. They've cooled since. I'm not a Baker Mayfield believer. I think he, obviously has had a pretty good year to this point, especially, with where he's coming in from. But, give me the Texans to kind of bounce back. I think they have the ability to beat good teams. I think they have shown that so far. This season, they're under 500 now, but I think they get back to 500 in this one. And I think the 3-point spread is like perfectly fair. I think that's an absolute wash, if you're making bets.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, Texans they've shown this is what good coaching does. They play up to their competition level. So, if they're able to, I guess, beat the Bucks here, that really kind of coincides with everything that D'Amico Ryans is doing over there. So, but yeah, for me, I do think that the Bucks are kind of in this inflection point of like, do we just blow this thing up? Because they're veterans right now. They're like in this. They're not too old, but they're old enough where it's like we got to think long term, especially Baker Mayfield, which I know you're like, yeah, he's not the guy. Like they can do a little bit better, whether it's a Kyle Trask, getting him in there more so off, seeing what he's got, or maybe kind of releasing some assets here and jockeying for draft positioning, maybe for I don't know, like a Penix or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm gonna go with the Bucks still here and see if they can get the dub, road victory as an underdog.
For sure. In our next one, we've got the Bears traveling to NOLA to take on the Saints.
Man, oh man, well, it's a seven and a half point favorite for the Saints, right? I think the Bears will cover. I think that they'll lose. They'll definitely lose for sure. But Saints, they've always been up and down. I feel like, and I know with this whole thing about Tower Badgett and everything, and he's on the road. He's a rookie on the road. Like I'm not expecting to. And he's going against a pretty, they're a nice veteran. I think defense there with the Saints. They've had some ups and downs, but they do have some playmakers, and I think they'll be able to. Get to Tyson Badgett a little bit, get him a little bit more uncomfortable. Derek Carr just has like the worst record against the spread too. So I think that's like another thing as a favorite. Like I forgot the exact numbers on there, but he has a pretty terrible record again as a favorite. So yeah, against the spread, I should say. So 7.5. Yeah, I'll definitely pick. I think the Bears will cover that, but with this whole new team, I think with getting Montez Sweat, I think that's another thing too. It's like Was he really worth a second rounder when, Chase Young, they were able to, the 49ers were able to kind of get him, maybe for a 1 year rental to see if they're actually able to sign him or whatever. But yeah, there's just been a lot of things to talk about there. At least for this game, I think Tyson Bagent, he'll make enough like non-stupid plays and then kind of keep him in the game a little bit. But yeah, I think Derek Carr, that offense, I think they'll be able to move the ball enough against this Bears defense is still trying to figure it out a little bit. So
Yeah. I'm not sure how involved Sweat will be here in the first game. I'd be surprised if he's playing more than like 50% of the snaps or anything like that. But yeah, definitely high price to pay for a guy in his walk year. I think the Niners, like you're mentioning, gave up a third for Chase Young. So like we got, a little bit shorted there. I feel like Poles is really not showing that he has like, I like the plan and I'm going to stick with stick with my confidence in Poles to build something here, kind of moving into year three. But like some of his calls have been a little bit suspect at this point, with trades and then, subsequent drafts, even though I like the blueprint. Some of the decisions along that path have been kind of confusing, and I think what Bears, absolutely need to do is extend Sweat now. I mean, it becomes clear that that is a priority, but if they don't, they would just put a franchise tag on him. So you're paying him, 20 million or something for, being one of the top DNs in the league. So is that fair market value? Like probably for a team with one of the worst lines in the league, but I guess specific to this game and kind of looking at all the flaws the Bears have, like they're not playing to win football games right now. If anything, they're going to try to do the opposite. Poles got up there on a presser, this week and basically like lauded Eberflus and his ability to coach, his determination and, you know, um, just focus during practices and stuff, trying to get the best out of all these guys. I mean, to me, I would keep them in the hole as long as you're losing ball games because why disturb that? Why bring a new coach in who might have a different game plan or can figure things out in a different way to kind of like give you that ability to win some games? So maybe this is all just like posturing and stuff, but the way I see it, I don't know, like we've been a little bit confused on like what you want to do with Justin Fields once he comes back and is healthy. I try to get as many more looks out of Fields as I can to know what I want to do going into the offseason. But, with Bagent on the road against the Saints team that's starting to string it together, needs to string it together to assert itself in the South, like they're getting this W at home. Like this is absolutely a bunny for them. And, if they lose, then we'll be talking about the Saints a lot more with question marks going forward.
yeah, I mean, yes. Simply put. But I mean, this whole Bears team, I think it's like I there are question marks for sure with Brian Poles. He hasn't been perfect. He definitely has showcased like I guess a learning curve a little bit of being a GM and such. So there is all that. Uh, like I don't know if his whole thing was like, hey, I just want to like draft people like and see kind of how that goes. I don't think he knows. I think his biggest weakness, in my opinion, is he doesn't necessarily know how to value like non-draft players. So like players on current rosters, such as the Claypool trade, and then this whole I guess Montez Sweat thing. It's like Sweat's a good player, right? I don't equivocate these trades. I don't equivocate the Chase Claypool trade with the Montez Sweat. Sweat's an established player. He's an established player in his prime, edge position there. We can always talk about, I guess, win rates and stuff like that. I think he's like, maybe like the 50th rank or somewhere like that, I think is what I saw, whereas Chase Young was like maybe top 10 a little bit. So yeah, you can like talk about that, but then Sweat has the sacks. He has the tackles. He actually plays. He's not as injury prone, I guess, as Chase Young has been. So there's some merit, I think, towards at least that trade being a little bit different. But yeah, he just hasn't been good at evaluating those little things. And then yeah, what's happened, I think, with Roquan Smith, and then now I guess with Jalen Johnson, although it sounds like Jalen Johnson, at least they're not going to trade him quite yet, and see if they can sign him maybe in the offseason. So hopefully that does happen. But yeah, like for whatever reason, like he's not really good at figuring out like, okay, these players, they're worth this amount and we're going to assign that dollar value. And that makes total sense there. he's definitely been a lot more frugal than I think I would have liked. It's like, yeah, wouldn't it be nice to have kept Roquan maybe? And I understand that they got like Edmonds and Edwards too, kind of like almost for the same price as like Roquan, but none of those players have really done too much at the linebacker position. Whereas Roquan, he's like number one in terms of I guess linebackers in the NFL basically right now, or maybe top three at least. So I don't know. Yeah, I just have a little bit of like, what exactly are you trying to do? Like, are you just trying to clean house with the players a little bit? Versus, which, hey, that's totally fine. I get you can't necessarily say that, but yeah, just this whole evaluation for the current roster, trying to put a dollar amount there, and then doing some of these trades. I think that's where he struggles on drafting wise and maneuvering the draft. I think he's good. Could he have gotten like maybe some different players here and there? Sure, I think that's set for every draft, but for the most part, I'm fairly, I guess, content with like Brisker, Kyle Gordon a little bit. I know there's Darnell Wright and Jalen Carter. I know that whole fiasco and everything. Like, would have been nice to have Jalen Carter, who's I think he's the odds-on favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah, probably right now, especially with that weak defensive line right now. So, but I get it. It's like, yeah, Carter was a little bit of a wild card. I get that. This is like your first round pick here. You might as well like have a kind of a sure thing with Darnold, right? Protect Justin Fields. I get it, but yeah, not completely happy though. Like not an A plus, maybe like I don't know B minus maybe for Ryan Poles at the moment. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It's confusing. I mean, he doesn't let the game kind of come to him. Like it feels like he's forcing a lot of these moves.
Mm-hmm.
He's forcing the tackle because we need a tackle. He's now forcing the end because we look like shit on the defensive line. It's like, going back to that draft. I mean, this trade for Montez Sweat to give up a second, like we went out and got extra draft capital because we need a full 53-man team, and you go out and you trade the second, you bring in Sweat. But what are you saying with that trade? You're saying that I failed with the Dexter and the Pickens draft picks because this line still is crap, and this isn't going to be the thing that gets me, fired. So I'm going to make sure that we have, guys now in those positions. And he's like, it feels like he's almost scrambling. Like he is scrambling to kind of patch holes where, they could have been plugged, at least in theory. Like you bring in Jalen Carter. He's not going to be the best defensive tackle in the league in year one, but you got Jalen Carter there. You have the Claypool pick in the second round of last year's draft. You're able to, maybe it's bolster another edge position, or, maybe you're using that on a more elite cornerback or whatever it could have been. The thing with the Claypool decision, like when the trade was made, that guy was having character, durability, and production concerns in Pittsburgh. Like I saw clips of Tomlin like pretty much clowning him as a player on the team. Like, Tomlin's no nonsense attitude, and Clay just being like goofy Clay, like not working hard, this and that. And I'm glad we traded him. I'm glad, get whatever we could to get him off the team because I think that mattered a ton for culture. But again, I like the blueprint. I like everything in theory. Some of the trades have been, good. I mean, the DJ Moore trade is an absolute slam dunk. I'm never going to question that trade. That was a genius type of move. I think, again, we have a couple of picks here in the first round. I want to see that baby churned as much as possible because we can't just continue to trade high value draft capital for guys that we have to pay, the league maximum for. Like you were saying with Roquan, why get rid of Roquan when you're just going to go out and buy, two very pricey linebackers in a league that doesn't value that position as much anymore? It's just like some of this stuff honestly could be Eberflus influenced because he saw the success of a guy like Shaq Leonard on the Colts, Okereke, other guys that like stepped up on the Colts, EJ Speed, guys who he like maybe loved coaching, but like that's like 1990s, 2000s football. Like we need to evolve into, they've tried to do that by bolstering up the secondary, but it's like now you're at the point like you got to go pay Jalen Johnson probably max money, and you were dangling him at the trade deadline. I'm kind of maybe glad it didn't work out because we don't have like a lot of established guys there in the secondary we can like bank on as being starters, but it's just a complete mess. I don't I don't think I'm like the perfect guy either to say like, okay, give me the worst team in the league and I'm going to try to figure this out in a couple of years. Like, so we have to give him some grace here, but like,
Mhm.
we really just need to see what happens, with Fields, how they move forward and manage that. See what else you've got left in him. If he's a guy you're in with or out with, and then from there, this draft for me is all about like maximizing that draft capital to its greatest extent. I want to see that again, those picks I want to see churned as much as possible if need be, trade down the board, gobble up more capital for years later because
Mhm.
you're short 45 guys. You're short 45 guys at this point that I could, trust to play football in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is, right, they have, I think somebody said, like 100 some odd plus $1 million to spend basically this offseason, albeit, yeah, they're going to have to fill in a lot of roster spots there in terms of the contracts and all that. And then, yeah, the two top, I think right now it's the number 2 pick and number 3 pick, at least, right now. So if they are able to trade back a little bit, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I kind of I would like ideally right to have Marvin Harrison right, Jr. and then maybe Olufashanu or uh, I have seen I think Dallas Turner right the edge rusher over there for Bama. I think he's been moving down a little bit. There's been inconsistency issues right. I think kind of pop up. So I do wonder if that might have played a little bit of a factor there in terms of for Ryan Poles if he's like, you know what, like yeah, we're probably going to be picking, two picks in the top 10, right? Maybe we do want to trade back, make sure that we do get that edge rusher. Maybe we do overpay for him, with a second rounder and kind of force our hand a little bit there. That could be I think what might have happened there. But then it's like, yeah, you still got to fill out the rest of the defensive line. We were last in pressure. We're still in last in pressures right now, and that's a big thing, especially in this modern day age of past football. So I don't know. Yeah, there's still a lot of question marks there, but I mean, yeah, for me, it's like if we are able to maybe trade back one of those picks, maybe it's like okay, we do want to get Marvin Harrison Jr. Or you know what? Hey, we already have DJ Moore. Uh, yeah, maybe we're okay with our wide receiver core a little bit, and then shore up the line a little bit, with Fashanu, and then yeah, maybe we do get trade back a little bit, and then get Dallas Turner or Jared Verse or something like that. So I don't know, a number of different things can be there, but yeah, to the point. I don't know. Ryan Poles, I feel like, is very mixed baggage of like, what the hell are you trying to do exactly here?
Yeah. You just can't play both sides of the fence. So you can't you can't go after gobbling up draft capital and then be on the other side trading some of that capital to like bring in established guys who can win now. You just can't go in two separate direct like pick a
Yeah.
side and I think everybody would love the side of be patient, build
Mm-hmm.
something, you know, bring in as many established, um how would I put it? Like utilize that draft capital, bring in as many established like top end, draft picks here, build that out. You can see what works. You can see which talent is really, buying in and being effective. And then you supplement that by bringing in, free agents and you go out and make maybe a strategic trade, but maybe like instead of
Mm-hmm.
going at the top end of your draft capital pool, like maybe pull some of those fifth, sixth, sevens and go after, some veterans that are on struggling teams and they're in their walk years. Then you're the ones who are being
Yeah.
savvy in that way. You're kind of like scouting for, what you could maybe re-sign in that offseason. So I guess that's the biggest thing. It's like I like Sweat. I like Sweat as a guy. It's just we're not going to win next year. Like we are not going to win next year based on what we've seen so far this one. So it's like, man, I don't know. Like we're just setting the clock a little bit too soon in some of these bigger end
Mm-hmm.
moves, the higher end moves.
I mean, Justin Fields, I think he still has what 1 year after this, right? I think it's an option, I believe, or some sort. So, you know, like, do we? What do you think? Do we give Justin Fields one more shot, load up on some other positions, not take Caleb Williams or Drake May out of UNC, like just take up some of those position players and kind of see what happens, or what do you think?
Honestly, I just don't have an answer for that right now because he's injured. He's coming back maybe in a couple weeks. I'd love to see how this year ends. I want to watch him play. If he can ball out like he did last year in the second half and he just does that again, then for me it's a coaching thing. You've got to make a coaching move that'll bring in a guy who's innovative, who's offensive minded, somebody who can really get the most out of Justin if he's showing that he has the talent. If he comes back and is just kind of middle of the road to below average, like, yeah, like take the option and keep him on the roster. But like, yeah, you're being aggressive with that first round pick. Like, if Caleb is the guy and it's possible that we can go out and get him, like, we'll probably have to. And if he's off the board or whatever, it just doesn't work out in our way, like, utilize those picks to the best of your ability. If you need to trade down a little bit, trade down to get more capital and go check out what's on the free agent market. If it's somebody who's just like a stable game manager, like we've been talking about for a bridge year, like have him push Justin as far as possible in this last year coming up on his contract. And again, if Fields is faltering, trade him or go to that game manager and just ride it out. Like we're at that point where anything's possible. I'd be open. I'd be like eyes wide open here, like in evaluating everybody. And again, my eyes on like building a 53-man team. So I'm not worried about one or two high-end guys. I'm worried about 53 that can play football like together.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the biggest is like I'm not a big Eberflus fan. I don't know too many Bears fans that are. It's like that ought to be the number one priority right now is finding a new head coach, in my opinion of things, because he seems like a nice guy and all that, and then Ryan Poles keeps on trying to say the nice thing there, but I'm like, he's just not cutting it. I'm not seeing any progress. He has the worst record of a Bears coach like ever. So like it's one thing if it's like, okay, you have a couple of a bad season here, right? But like I don't know, the team's not bringing it. The team seems lost. Obviously, all the struggles that Justin Fields hasn't progressed. It's like I don't know, what more can you say? There's just not like too many positive outlooks at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah. He may be a great coordinator. He may be a great defensive coordinator, a great, positional coach. I mean, he may motivate guys in a lot of ways, but when it comes to, day-to-day game management, understanding his roster, like maybe those aren't his strengths and that's okay. But yeah, Poles at this point with that presser, he's gotta be positive about him. If you're not gonna, pull the trigger on letting him go now, like you got to keep saying the positive thing, and I think it's all just like a little bit of gaslighting, but hey, that's Chicago. We're used to it. We'll see where things end up, but yeah, man, this is the joy of being a Bears fan.
Bring in Rich Pistachio. Let's bring him in. Let's bring the special teams guy in there.
Let's
Let's
go.
get it. Yeah,
let's go.
Let's take the special teams guy from the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, let's ruin their lives.
No doubt. All right. Well, staying in the North, we'll watch. This next game, Minnesota Vikings going on the road to take on the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I mean Vikings. It's really unfortunate with what happened to Kirk Cousins, right? Like he was, like in my opinion, he was the most valuable player, like in terms of what he brought to the team, the energy, the leadership. Obviously Justin Jefferson is their best player, but without having that player like Kirk Cousins there, man, this team is completely different. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be taking the Falcons here. Falcons, they're getting better in their quarterback room. With Heineke there, they looked better in the second half of their previous game there. But sorry to all the Ritter fans out there. But yeah, Heineke, he was the guy. I think everybody with with eyes can see that he was a better quarterback. And I know Ritter kind of had like up and down games. His highs are really look great. Like you kind of like imagine him as an All Pro, but oftentimes those were against like pretty bad defensive teams. So Heineke though, he's gonna bring it. He's a competitor. Yeah, Vikings, just unfortunate events that happening to them when it seemed like they were getting a lot of steam. The defense started playing better. Iron Brian Flores, and then man, just a tough loss. Losing Kirk Cousins there. So gonna pick the Falcons here. I think they're 4.5 point favorites in Atlanta. That's tough. So I'm gonna go with the over here.
Yeah. Yeah. Disappointing loss for Atlanta last week, taking on a first time starter there in Tennessee. I had confidence in this team to kind of push the agenda a little bit, like get out ahead in the NFC South with some bunny matchups here. This one, in theory, should be just another bunny, but Minnesota has enough pieces there on offense. They were playing more inspired on defense, so this one will probably be a closer matchup. I've always liked Taylor Heineke. I watched him a lot actually, being in Washington. They're obviously covered on Fox like every Sunday here, so I've had a lot of time with Taylor on TV and stuff. And yeah, I like the way he plays. He plays very gritty football. He's poised. I think his grit and determination make up for adequate talent. I think he's an adequate talent with above average character and like desire. And that's what Atlanta needs this year. I mean, for the rest of this year, they need somebody who can just be a steady hand, be somebody who coaches, be somebody who can pick up the other guys. Like Ritter's been shaky. I don't know. I don't want to call him over, but at this point, like you got to kind of go and make the change. You got to bring in a new arm. And I think Heineke's the perfect guy for that, especially with this roster, because this roster, especially on offense, has so much talent. On defense, they've obviously been clicking. I feel like they had a lapse against Tennessee. I think they clamped down here against Jaron Hall, fifth rounder out of BYU, and get a W. Whether or not they're stomping them is one thing. Could be a close game, but I think they get the W.
I mean, historically, they've played pretty close games. I just think, at least from my we'll see what happens for sure. But yeah, this Falcons team, they at home they don't let up at all. So, but at the same time, this Vikings team, pretty well coached team overall. Like they're usually pretty close games that they play in, right? And I think that coincides with a little bit of coaching and then play calling. So I think they're going to be playing fairly decent there. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of hurdles to go against. And the Falcons at home, they just play a lot better for whatever reason. So yeah, I don't know. I got to go with the over here.
Gotcha. In our next one, we've got the LA Rams going on the road to take on the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing for me is like Stafford's status is up in the air. I'm not too sure on the latest on that, but it sounds like he's had some, I think, thumb issues there. That's gonna be tough. Packers though, they've lost 4 in a row, so like it hasn't looked good for them, of recent. So and I guess back to the Rams, like it might be Brett Ripien there. Stetson Bennett, I think he's out for the year. So whoever's going to be thrown to that wide receiver tandem of Cooper Kupp and Nakua, it's like it. I mean, I think that they're a lot better team with Stafford. Stafford is like the other kind of MVP, like again, most valuable kind of player there. Maybe not the best player in football, but like the value that Stafford brought to the Rams, he certainly elevated them in that wide receiver core. So I'm going to go with the Packers here. I think the Packers are favorited, and for me, rightfully so. They still have some of those playmakers on the defensive end to help keep them in the game. There are some questionables there with I think Jair Alexander, Alton Jenkins, and Aaron Jones too. It always seems like when the Packers do have Aaron Jones, they're a lot better team. Not just a little bit, a lot. So taking some of that pressure off of Jordan Love. So, but I'm gonna go, yeah, Packers here in Lambeau, I believe. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think the home cooking, I think, is what wins this for them, and then not having Stafford for the Rams, if that's the case, I think that's going to be detrimental. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers.
I am too. I think this Rams team, they haven't had a real win, in my opinion, since week 4 when they beat the Colts. They've beaten the Cardinals since, but otherwise have been losing in general. Nakua and Kupp, it kind of goes, even with Stafford healthy, was kind of going back and forth. They're having some pretty pedestrian games too along the way. So like the offense wasn't clicking like it was in those, first few games that they had out of the gate. And yeah, I don't know. It just feels like now is probably the time for Jordan Love to step it up a little bit more. He's obviously been put under watch by their GM. I know Matt LaFleur has a lot of confidence in him, and I kind of think back to like the week against the Saints when he led a pretty inspired like second half run to just beat them at home and kind of get them back. You know, in contention at least at that time, like kind of getting them a little bit on the map, like we were actually talking about. Packers maybe making a push here, for the North. And I came in this year with my doubts based on Love, coming in his first year, and I think it's going to be a struggle with Cousins and the Bears, playing the way they have been. Like maybe they find their way into the second seed there, at least in the North. I don't think they sniff the playoffs, but like I think Jordan Love's capable of having a good game, and I think he gets back into the win column here.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, he's played pretty bad, so I think it's going to get better. Maybe it's just getting a little bit of those. I think just building up the confidence up again and getting more continuity with some players because they've had like Aaron Jones missing here, missing there. They've had Christian Watson missing here, missing there. Like I think just a little bit of continuity, I think, could help. With he's still developing. Obviously, he's been in the league for the past couple of seasons. But yeah, now this is like his time to shine. So yeah, I just think getting some continuity on defensive end because they don't have too many veterans. Like they're a very young offense there, and I think that's just been the biggest thing for them. So yeah, just getting some continuity. Hopefully, at least for from a Packers fan that they get some of those players just playing and on the field there because yeah, they've definitely had the injury bug I think this season. So
definitely. In our next one, we've got the Indianapolis Colts going on the road to take on the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I did go back and forth a little bit on this one, actually. I mean, the Panthers, they squeaked out a victory there. They squeaked a victory over there against the Texans. I was thinking about that. I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe the Panthers play a little bit inspired because of all the shit talking that Bryce Young was getting and all that for being the number one pick, and then CJ Stroud just like kind of killing it and breaking records there. So, but yeah, with this Colts team, right? It's like, okay, I don't know. I just think, yeah, the Colts, they've lost 3 in a row, right? Their defense has looked terrible. Panthers, yeah, their one victory, right? Like Bryce Young, I mean, they scored 15 points. It's not like they, blew out the Texans. And Texans have a pretty decent defense right now, so, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to go with the Colts here. Panthers, not the best run defense. I think they're bottom half or bottom 5, I should say. Colts, yeah, they got that kind of two-headed monster a little bit with Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. They still got some pretty decent wideouts there. I think their defense, the Colts defense, will hopefully not screw up as much as they have. I think they've given like 34, 35 points like the past 3 games. Like, and yeah, against the Browns too, I think was one of the games. It's like PJ Walker, that guy. So yeah, I'm gonna go Colts here. I think they make enough plays on the offensive side, run the ball, kind of play ball control a little bit there, and then yeah, let their defense, have some energy, have some rest, and make a couple plays there against Bryce Young and that Panthers offense.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna go with the Colts. I don't think much of the Panthers, especially kind of coming into this year, looking at what PFF was saying about that defense, talking about them being like a top 8 unit. They've definitely not shown that this year. I think I mentioned I actually watched them quit on the field in Detroit, and it was just like, man, this team just doesn't look together. Offensively, like they got the W, but even in that, like Bryce Young, wasn't particularly impressive. I just think, Texans didn't really show up and kind of, just played mediocre football, lost a football game there. The Colts, we know they're going to score. Like, I feel like that's something we can have confidence in. Like, they're going to score, put up points. Like, Josh Downs is getting, settled in next to Pittman as like a pretty high end type receiver. Yeah, like you said, with the two-headed monster there, like Taylor's another week healthy, another week, integrated back into that offense. I see that working out pretty well for them, on the ground in Carolina. And yeah, I don't know. It feels like the Colts have been playing, even though they've given up, a lot of points week to week, they've been playing some pretty competitive games against good teams. And I just think they're, top to bottom, a better team than Carolina. And we're going to find Carolina at the top of this, NFL draft, at least in position. And obviously we get to, cash in on that pick. But yeah, I think their streak of losing returns here in week 9.
Yeah, yeah. Panthers, please, yeah, get a loss here, improve our chances of getting Marvin Harrison Jr. Always down for that. So
For sure. We've got the Dallas Cowboys going on the road to take on the Philadelphia Eagles.
yeah, I guess this is the other game of the week, but there's definitely that disappointing side that always seems like that Dak Prescott and the Cowboys bring on like a prime time or like big game here, and especially against this Eagles team, which they've usually bring it to to the level of competition. So um, it's tough. It's tough. Like part of me is like, you know what? Maybe there is a little bit of faith that I have for the Cowboys to, they've been playing against some decent football of late. So that being said, Cowboys are going to Cowboys, right? You got to go with how they usually perform in these big state kind of games. And Eagles, they made that trade deadline move, or I think that trade for Bayard there, and it's like they're loading up. They're loading up. They're on a mission, and I think they'll eventually they'll get this game. I think maybe it'll be a nice game for AJ Brown a little bit. It'll be interesting, I think, with that secondary, the passing game, if they're able to, capitalize against the Cowboys, because the Cowboys' passing defense has been pretty stellar, pass rush, and then obviously the cornerback play there too with Bland and Gilmore. So I don't know. Yeah, it's not going to be an easy victory, I think, but yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles here. I think they'll be able to run the ball just enough there.
Yeah, man. This is going to be one of my surprises, I guess, because I usually don't go with the Cowboys, but they've been looking pretty good, coming off their bye. I'm seeing a lot of things from Prescott that I've actually liked over the last couple of weeks, like just being more confident, being, trigger happy, and getting, some of those receivers involved, beyond CeeDee Lamb, like bringing Brandon Cooks to life, getting Jake Ferguson involved. That it just needs to be good on that end, because that defense, like you're saying, is great. And Micah Parsons made it a point to say, he basically went on the record saying, like, I want all the Dallas fans in the Philly area to come out and support us, because, we're looking to, kind of go in there and steal one. And, the way they played against the Niners was so embarrassing that, if this team's going to be anything this year, they need to go out and like have, one of those amazing performances. For me, it has nothing to do with the Eagles. They've been cruising. They have played some close games here with the Commanders. They've almost lost twice to that team. I just think they're susceptible to a loss. That's it. It's just, I just see it as like, this team's not going to go 16-1 this year. Like if they do, hats off to them. But I just see this as Dallas is going to come in. They're going to be hungry. At the end of the year, do I think that, the Cowboys are going to go further than the Eagles? No. But I think for this game, they're just going to outplay them. And yeah, I just give that as like one of my upset picks, I guess, for this week.
Yeah. I mean, hey, sometimes the Cowboys, when the least is expected from them, they show up and they just dominate. So this could be one of those circumstances here.
We'll see. In our Sunday night game, we've got the Buffalo Bills going on the road to take on the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, Bills versus Bengals, man. I mean, I gotta go with the Bengals here. They've been playing a lot better of late. Burrow, he seems to be actually passing more than 20 yards, right? I think and I think Jamar Chase very much enjoys that. So those dinks and dunks that he was doing early in the season, he just wasn't healthy. I think that was the biggest thing. He just wasn't healthy. and I guess he's just gone a little bit, got the cobwebs over. Like he also didn't really have like a preseason as well, so all those things I think kind of interfered with obviously the Bengals getting off to a fast start, which this was kind of predicted. They normally don't. So I think the Bengals are favored for 2 points. I'm going to go the over here actually. I think they'll be able to score some points against the Bills. Bills though, I will say that they looked I finally said like get the ball to Khalil Shakur. Like that's the wide receiver I think that is going to be important for you to move the ball. He kind of likes to play in the slot a little bit, but he had some good some good yak yardage there. I think he had like he had a nice trucking moment, just like ran over a defensive back there, and I don't know, he's pretty skilled. So get him the ball, and then take the pressure off of Diggs a little bit there. You also got Kincaid, you got Gabe Davis too in there. So, but yeah, I still believe the Bengals are they're catching fire, and I think at home, for the Bengals, got to go with the Bengals here.
I agree. This is the DeMar Hamlin game. The one that got postponed from last year. This is the game. I think it's going to be fun to watch. Like tune in and catch any of that backstory. I hope they do some sort of like tribute or something that just kind of commemorates that tough game last year and kind of brings all that forward. I mean, hopefully they're going through this full game. Nobody gets super injured or anything like that because I mean that was hard to watch, man. Going into that game last year and kind of seeing how it all played out. But I think both these franchises have like a ton of respect for each other. I think they're both some of the top dogs in the AFC. I think whoever loses this one doesn't skip a beat for the rest of the year. It just is what it is. I've really liked where the Bills have been going, especially getting guys like Shakur, like you said, and even Dalton Kincaid involved, like truly involved. Like Dawson Knox going down is going to be a blessing in disguise for them because I think they've got a true all-star there. For fantasy purposes too, I got Allen and Kincaid, so like keep it going, guys. Like I'm fully behind you as a tandem. But in this one, like you've been saying with the Bengals, like I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I picked them to win the Super Bowl. So I've had confidence in them as a team since we started this thing. But I've also, kind of as we've gone along, like had been worried about like Burrow's injuries, everything that's going on with the calf early on. It looks like he's beyond that at this point. Hopefully he can just obviously stay healthy there because he's everything to that team. And like you're saying, they've been cruising. They've been beating good teams. They beat the Niners by a couple scores, edged out the Seahawks, took care of Arizona on the road, like in a get right game. But man, they're going to keep it going, man. They're only 4-4. They need to make some of that ground up against the Ravens and kind of cement their playoff status in the AFC North there. So yeah, give me the Bengals at home in a tight one, in a fun one, and I'll just go there.
I mean, now that it's like halfway through the season, basically now, right? Like, do you still believe in that pick for the Bengals going to the Super Bowl? Has that changed a little bit? Who do you think are like the best teams right now playing?
Yeah, no. For me, I'm gonna stay on it. Because injuries is what kind of has hampered them. Is kind of kept them down at the start of this year. I even might have predicted the Bengals being like a wild card type team this year. Just kind of knowing where the Ravens were, Browns. I'd have to double check like where I actually put them in the seating, but I know they weren't getting first round buys and things like that. So I know they're gonna have a road to go through to get to where they ultimately want to end up. I think at the end of the day, I think I even had them going against the Bills in the AFC Conference Championship on the road. If that happens to play out, like I think they're capable of doing that. So I'm gonna stay behind them. The Chiefs are obviously like that consistent winner and things like that. But yeah, man, I got a lot of faith in Burrow and especially what he's done over the last couple of seasons. He's got cold water running through those veins. Like he's not worried about the moment or the pressure. Like he's already faced that. He knows what he needs to do when he gets there. So I like that. And yeah, I mean for the 49ers, depends on obviously what they're doing under center depends on the health of their roster. But again, I feel pretty confident that if everyone's healthy for the Niners, adding Chase Young doesn't hurt. Like, they're going to be a very dangerous football team. I still love the Eagles. I think they're still, the cream of the crop in the NFC. Like, I love the Eagles, man. I really do. But I'll stick with what I predicted, and I still see the Bengals going over the Niners.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was the Bengals versus, was it the Eagles that you had for the Super Bowl?
Niners.
Oh, yeah, the Niners. Okay.
Niners.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we both picked the Eagles or the Niners, but then I think I had the Chiefs in there instead. So, but yeah,
Sounds right.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So, but yeah, I mean, I do believe in the Eagles more so than the Niners. That is like a thing I think with the Niners. I mean, it all comes down to health, right? Like right now, Brock Purdy, he's kind of struggling without, two of his, like, I don't know, 5 all pros on his team, right? Like, we all see that Brock Purdy, yeah, he can make some plays here and there, but kind of needs like Debo Samuel and then Trent Williams on the left tackle to help him out. Like, it just is what it is. But they need to be healthy in order for them to succeed, really, right? So I think that's just kind of what, they're not going to win Sam Darnold out there. So whereas the Eagles, they got a lot of talent everywhere, and then Jalen Hurts, he can make plays. With or without even AJ Brown, in my opinion. So I just think they're a good solid team there. So, but I don't know. The Bengals, it's definitely a wait and see. Like, I think every team looks pretty vulnerable. But I honestly, if I were to change my mind on something, again, I'm still gonna stick with my Chiefs pick here. But yeah, I might stick in the Ravens there, just the way that they've been playing. They've exceeded my expectations. Of course, the key thing when I should touch base on earlier was if they can stay healthy. But if they do stay healthy, they're the best team in football, in my opinion, with Lamar, with all the playmakers that they have now on the offensive side, and then that pass rush and the defense with Roquan leading it now. It's like I just have a lot of faith in them, and John Harbaugh too, like excellent head coach. So, but that's a big if. They just haven't been able to maintain health, I think, the past couple of seasons. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting how this next half of the season plays out, though. So.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to see some new blood in there, especially in the Super Bowl. It'd be fun to kind of get past some of these, regular appearances now. Feels like with Patrick Mahomes and others. Like, they're all fun players and stuff. Like, I'm cool if we do a repeat of what we've seen in the past, but it'd be nice to see some new blood as always. I guess for our last one, man, I'm sorry, America. We've got the Los Angeles Chargers going into New York to take on the Jets.
Man, oh man, oh man. Chargers. This team definitely has been up and down, up and down. It's like, how can this team, if you look at that roster, how can this team be that bad, right? I mean, that bad. They're like around 500, right? But man, Herbert, right? Like, he's honestly, I think he's like, in my opinion, he's like the most pure passer in the NFL, like, passing. So I think, Mahomes, he can play backyard football, right? That's kind of his own MO. But, in terms of a player, staying in the pocket, making the proper throws, making strong, accurate throws, right? Justin Herbert's the guy. So, I don't know. I'm going to go with the Jets here. I think they're a 3-point underdog in New Jersey, right? Like, I don't know. For whatever reason, I feel like with the Jets, they play up to the level of whoever the quarterback is, right? Like, if it's a good quarterback, if it's Jalen Hurts, like, all right, we're going to get you. We're going to come and get you. We're going to make your life a living hell. And we don't care who's our quarterback. We're just going to make sure we annihilate you. And then, with that pass defense, the secondary, the linemen, they just come after you. So I love that about the Jets. And then, maybe they'll be able to make Breece Hall is able to make a big run here and there. Wilson's able to get it to Garrett Wilson, for a big game or a touchdown. I think they pull it off here. There's just so many things that happen with the Chargers sometimes that it's like it's kind of expected, right? So I don't care if Brandon Staley's shaved. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you go from the serial killer look to okay, now you're just like a choir boy. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Jets here. Pull off the upset. Play that grinding type of defense and running the ball, and I think they're able to get the upset here.
Man, this one sucks because I just want to take the Chargers and just not think about it. It's been weird in their rushing game for sure. Like they've had to rely on that pass so heavily. They're kind of one noted at this point. Eckler, obviously coming back from an ankle injury, doesn't really look like himself just yet. Like he's just catching screen passes and getting productive in that sense. And like you're saying, like Herbert is just throwing dimes out there to all sorts of guys. Like Keenan Allen obviously is his favorite target, but like Donald Parham's getting involved. Josh Palmer's been reliable enough. Man, it's just looking at the Jets, like they're just so uninspiring. Like Zach Wilson is either adequate or bad, one of the two. Man, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with you, dude. I'll go with you. I'll reluctantly take the Jets because they have lost some close primetime games against some really, big contenders. I mean, some real serious contenders. They've played tough all year. They've played with a lot of heart. I'll give them that. The Chargers are the type of team where they've got a really, sexy roster, but like they just don't feel like united. I mean, a big win over the Bears is one thing, but like going on the road, in New York, a team that is trying to set itself up for when Aaron Rodgers could potentially come back, like they're motivated. That team's motivated. So yeah, man, on heart and tenacity alone, I'm going to take the Jets in a very close game, but it doesn't feel good to say it,
Yeah. Well, I mean, talk about like two, albeit from I guess a mojo right standpoint, like two different teams, right? It's like the Jets. I mean, I don't know. I like the Jets. Maybe it's because it's like it kind of reminds me of that Chicago Bears kind of football, right? It's like tough defense, some running backs, a very mediocre prima donna quarterback from BYU, right? Like that's kind of like the Chicago Bears MO there versus like the Chargers, all the talent in the world, a godlike quarterback and big wide receivers who could run routes. And then you got like two all pros there at the defensive edge there for the Chargers. And it's like, how does this team lose? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But they do because their head coaching is mediocre and uninspiring. So I don't know. Yeah, for me, the Jets. I'm gonna love this game, cheering on for the Jets here. I'm gonna go crazy for them.
I probably won't watch, but if I happen to, like, I will pull for the Jets just because I put my pick down on them. But yeah, that's basically a wrap for Week 9. Hope you all have enjoyed. Obviously, like, subscribe, leave comments, let us know what you think game to game. We're always happy to hear it. I guess to close it out, Wayne, do you have any final thoughts?
So just announced DiGiorno, they're going to come out with a Thanksgiving pizza. They're trying to, I guess, advertise or promote to Gen Zers who don't like to cook or do shit or whatever, and just take something and put it into an easy bake oven or something. So that's kind of what DiGiorno is looking to do. It's going to come with it's going to be a thick Detroit style crust, piles it high with turkey, rich gravy, diced sweet potatoes, green beans, cranberries, two kinds of cheese, and crispy onion topping. So, Pat, would you be interested in buying this, with your easy bake oven, or is this something you would pass?
Wait, Do you actually have to cook it in an easy bake oven? Is that like
No, I'm just making that
contingent?
up.
Oh, okay. I was like, because then I'm like, man, how do you even make this thing? All right. So that aside, look, pizza to me, I have my preferences, I have my favorites, but I generally will eat anything that is on the vehicle of a pizza. You know what I mean? Like I'll generally put anything in my face that comes in pizza form, you know, and that can be from the most elite of pizzas to the most basement bargain rubber crap pizza. Like I like to eat pizza. It's fun. This sounds particularly fun to me. And while I'm not a Thanksgiving guy, you've heard my rant as of last year. Like, I will completely leave it in terms of like, you know, where I'd rank it on my favorite, you know, feast, you know, list. Like, I just think the feast that is Thanksgiving offers some of the like the least inspiring options in my opinion. Like, I don't love it, but I have had sandwiches in the past that combine all the elements of the Thanksgiving. Like I know Kosi used to do a Thanksgiving style sandwich that I used to like, and I get you know time and time again. I've actually got a turkey that is basically like sliced into thin slices, but is stuffed with stuffing and cranberries, and it comes with like an apple chutney on the top. So you just got to oven roast it. And I bought it a couple times, and I think it's very good. Um, this sounds like something my wife would really enjoy, this deep dish Thanksgiving style. So like I might actually just go out and buy it just to like obviously try it so we can review it on this show. But then also I'm sure she'll enjoy this. One question I do have though is like, is there tomato sauce in this or is like the gravy the sauce?
That's a good question. I'm looking at the food and wine article where they interviewed like the senior brand manager of DiGiorno. Um, I'm not too sure if it does. I mean, if you think about it, like would the tomato sauce go with that? I'm not too sure. Like with the turkey and with all the gravy and stuff, it doesn't say. I don't think it does, but
Probably
um,
not. But it's funny
yeah,
because sometimes you order one of those kinds of pizzas, those specialties, and they'll still throw the tomato sauce in there, you know? Like they'll still
yeah,
do it.
yeah. I mean, yeah. But yeah, definitely go check it out. Let us know what you think. Try to cook it in an easy bake oven. That'd be hilarious. And
Yeah.
yeah, let us know what happens. So,
Yeah. Well, what about you? Did you put your mark on this one?
I mean, it could be like a nice little gag thing, right, for like a friendsgiving. But would I like wanna bring it to I don't know, like an in-laws place or something like somebody I'm actually trying to impress, or bring a little cloud or something like that? No, I definitely wouldn't. But yeah, for something fun, just with friends or something, maybe it would be something to like, hey, I just got this DiGiorno pizza, frozen pizza from wherever. It's like, yeah, here it is, and hey, let's go watch some football or something like that. Um, yeah, but probably not. I think there's a lot. To your point, there's just a lot of other fun stuff I think you can make or take out for like Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving even. So
Yeah. Well, I'll consider also bringing it as a side dish to my family Thanksgiving. Like I think that would just be funny to like be toting a DiGiorno pizza where all the other ingredients are laid out and you're just like, well, does anyone want all of that shit on the this deep dish pizza? Like it'd be kind of funny. But yeah, maybe you could pair that with like the Bud Light seltzer, Thanksgiving pack or whatever. Like I'm sure they'll have some off the wall pack and just really get into it this year for sure.
yeah, nothing says Thanksgiving like corporate branded pizza trying to take away your Thanksgivings here. So how about that?
How about that? Um, I guess I'll stay on holidays for my final thought, just for the hell of it. But obviously, Halloween was this week. Good times. Hopefully, you had a chance to go out and do stuff. We took our son trick or treating, which was a lot of fun. I think he enjoyed saying all the buzzwords of Happy Halloween, trick or treat, things like that. But anytime he went to a house, he wasn't really enthused about meeting the people that came out with the candy, so he would shy away from all that. But all this to say, we got a nice Halloween basket full of candy that he will not eat. So what happened? We had this bucket. Parents are looking at each other, and we decide, like, hey, we got to divvy this out. So we came up with a strategy to basically hold a Halloween candy draft. I gave my wife the first pick in this draft, and we went back and forth one by one, selecting our favorites. This actually played out really to my favor because I'm more of a chocolate and fruit guy, kind of guy, and she likes strictly fruit candy. So knowing that she doesn't like chocolate, after she took a big size Skittles, I took the big size Reese's peanut butter cups. There was a scramble for the rest of the Reese's peanut butter cups. There were some Snickers that were taken off the board pretty early. She did take the gummy snacks and the Nerds, but I started to realize I knew some of the chocolate things she didn't like that I absolutely love. I just kept those on the board. I just kept them on the board, and I just started picking away at the Starburst, the Skittles, all the other stuff that was left on, things that she would like to take. So at the very end, I was able to still, salvage the Heath bar, the cookies and cream Hershey's, the Whoppers. Like, I had a good draft, I would say. I think I had some late round sleepers and things like that. But Wayne, I just want to know, number one, what is your reaction to that draft? Do you think that's a good idea? Also, do you have any late round draft sleeper candies where people are always going to look over them at Halloween time? They may not stand out as everyone's favorites, but deep down in your heart, you're like, man, these little handfuls of candies here, these brands are some of my favorites, and yeah, I'm the oddball in the room for them.
Well, first off, that is an ingenious move between you two. You guys will go far in life for sure. I mean, if you think about it, it's like, yeah, do you want your kid to get cavities like overnight? Basically, no. So you got to think about how can we divvy up all the candy that we get. Maybe invite. Maybe that's the thing. Yeah, maybe next time you invite like a crew over, right? And you're able to divvy up the picks, if you will, to people that maybe are maybe a little bit more interested in chocolate and the fruit stuff, and then all the other things and items there. So just so there's a little bit of I guess competition right amongst the people there, because I feel like yeah you had your own picks, you had a more diverse wants and demands there, and yeah, I think that kind of rolled into your favor here. So I'm trying to like help out your wife here in this case. So yeah, get more players in the game, and then I think that could definitely be a good thing in the future. And yeah, maybe you can bring like another kid's candy load in there too, and then divvy it up from there. So get a little bit of diversification from for the actual candies. So I don't know, some sleeper picks. Man, you got to go after those like late round running backs. I think that maybe like they're the second string. Like there's a 30-year-old running back ahead of them that might get hurt or is just getting older, and they're like, yeah, this young upstart type of running back is just going to get some reps and then probably overtake the more expensive guy, and then the franchise is going to want to see what they can get out of this person. So. If that were to be a thing, yeah, something that's new, hot, and doesn't have as much, I guess, damage towards it at this point, man. I mean, that's a tough one, I would say. I mean, I don't know. I'm always a Baby Ruth person, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You brought that out. Yeah, you've brought that out before. Like,
Yeah.
And I've actually I had a Baby Ruth in my draft, and it's not very dissimilar to the Snickers. It just has a different texture, right?
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's it. A lot of people they're like, "Oh, go for the Snickers." I'm like, "Great." So you're gonna like waste your like first, second overall pick there for the Snicker when you got the decent, enough Baby Ruth there. I don't know, the 5th or 6th round. Like, yeah, definitely value pick. I think Baby Ruth all the way for me.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't like, the weird textures like the Butterfinger, the Milk Duds. I'm trying to think what else. I like Heath a lot, like toffee. So it's just funny because every time I get like a Blizzard or like whatever it is, a McFlurry or something, usually the Blizzard just because they do it. I think Culver's might do concrete mixers too, but I always get Butterfinger and Heath in those things because I just feel like with vanilla ice cream, it's just like brings that to a whole new, like another level. And everyone cringes when I say what's in the cup, but like it is awesome, man. Like I just don't like, I don't even care. Like I'm like, this is the best thing that I could possibly get in this like, mixer or whatever else it could be.
Yeah, I mean, making ice cream definitely teaches you a lot about how to like pack things into ice cream, and it's like having a bunch of chocolate in there, like that's to die for. That is something that you won't forget, further down the road. It's just, yeah, I don't know, making like vanilla ice cream. That maybe that's like something I can do. Yeah, is I'll have my own draft for Halloween, right? Get a bunch of candy, for when I have a family, when I have kids, and then I'll make some ice cream, and then I'll just draft up all the chocolate, and then just throw it in there into the ice cream. So I mean, yeah, that sounds like a good idea though that you had there.
Sounds good. And are there any candies absolutely would cringe if you saw them end up in your Halloween basket?
I mean, black licorice. I've never been a black. I don't get the point. Like, what is the point of black licorice? Like, why do I want this bitter darkness in my mouth whatsoever? Why do I want something that tastes like death, in my mouth? Why do I want something that tastes like, I don't know, like Dracula's dick? Like, I don't know why would I want that in my mouth. So, uh, yeah, black licorice. There's no point to its existence whatsoever. I'm sorry. Like, I know there's some people that like black licorice, but it is not anywhere near anything that I enjoy whatsoever.
Yeah. Stumbling with this one. I mean, yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't want raisins. I don't want that peanut butter or black paper, toffee that they, the taffy that they kind of hand out. I don't know if you ever seen something like that. It's like saltwater taffy, but it's just wrapped in orange and black paper and stuff. It looks like seriously they like these evil grandmas package this like in their homes at like their kitchen counter and then just like hand them out one by one. Like they're very scary. But yeah, man, that's probably about it. I mean, I think the Necco wafers have always sucked. I would hate to get like Smarties or anything like that in my basket either. So like, yeah, man, just give me like good brand name chocolates, preferably milk based. I don't really like the dark stuff as much, but yeah, give me stuff that I can recognize. I don't want any of this like, you know, too off the grid type candy in my basket.
Yeah, yeah. Keep it simple, I think, is my whole thing. Like, keep it simple. Like, get your major players. Yeah, get your first, 5 draft picks out there. Maybe a couple wild cards. See that there's that new hot thing out there. But yeah, just stick to the classics sometimes. Get the Nick Chubb. I know he went on IR and everything, but get the Nick Chubb. Don't overplay it, right? Sometimes. So yeah.
Absolutely. Like if Tyler Lockett is still on the board in the 10th round,
Yeah.
you go get Tyler Lockett. It's not
Yeah.
the Lexus of candies, but like you're gonna, fill up on it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna help your team.
Yeah.
So anyways, man. Yeah. Well, shout out to Halloween. Heads up for Thanksgiving. Grab that DiGiorno pizza. Obviously, if you're still with us, if you still, happen to stay along for this journey tonight, like, subscribe, comment, review, follow, whatever you got to do, show us support. We love it. And we'll see you next time here on the Ball and Breakfast podcast.